Let us pray. Our Divine Father, as we conclude for this week our work in this assembly, we renew our thanks and ask that we may continue our work under your guidance. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
The Honourable Member for Innisfail.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table a petition presented by the Red Deer College Student Association containing signatures of 2,200 students who strongly support the proposal to give degree granting status to that institution. Mr. Speaker, a proposal I strongly support last spring in motion 213.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table 4 copies of the 7th Annual Report of the Advisory Committee on Wilderness Areas and Ecological Reserves as required by statute for the year ended March 31st, 1990.
The Honourable Associate Minister of Family and Family and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to table 4 responses to questions number 188 and number 216 on behalf of the Minister of Family and Social Services.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to file a motion for return of 183.
Introduction of special guests.
The Honourable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly 50 students from the New Sarepta Community School. 40 of them are located in the Members Gallery and 10 are having to sit down in the audiovisual room. A special welcome to them. I would ask that the students who are accompanied by teachers Roberta Hay and Cheryl Alexander and bus driver Ebby Schlender to stand and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to the Assembly today the Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Glenbow Museum, fine cultural institution based in Calgary. Catherine Evamy is in the Members Gallery. I'd ask her to rise and receive a warm welcome.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a group of 28 students from St. Joe's School in Wetaskiwin. They are grade 6 students from my constituency. They're seated in both the Members Gallery and Public Gallery. I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome in the House.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Premier. Mr. Speaker, anyone who has been watching the Mulroney government in action can see plain as day that it has one goal in mind. The dismantling of our country's institutions, including Medicare, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
And I say that this government would gladly comply with his wishes. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, let me make this simple. If the federal government is removed from the health care picture for tax dollars transferred to the provinces, then it will have absolutely no clout to enforce the essential 5 principles of the Canada Health Act, such as accessibility to quality health care for all citizens without regard to income, against provinces that wish to breach these principles. You can't support the Medicare system and also support the concept of disentanglement, Mr. Speaker. If you do, our Medicare system will erode. My question is to the Premier. Will the Premier admit that a system which has the provinces collecting their own income taxes would make the Canada Health Act obsolete, as the only way the federal government has to ensure compliance is through its transfer payments for health. Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member in a way is dealing with a hypothetical situation, but let me just say that first, I don't agree with his position at all, and particularly from this government's point of view, we are unequivocally in support of and will continue the principles of the health care system as we have now in Canada and Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, that's very nice rhetoric, but I want to ask him how you can transfer tax points to the provinces and still have some clout on those provinces to maintain the principles of health care. You can't have it both ways. Explain how it's done.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member may know that tax points have been passed to provinces over the years, and we have been able to maintain the quality of the programs. There's nothing magic that the federal government is the only nice people in the world that are going to insist on a certain kind of health care in Canada. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, the people of Alberta and this government, supported by the people of Alberta, are unequivocally committed to the health care system we have now, which is the best in Canada.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Premier brought this up, because let's look at this government's record. We watched when Mr. Moore was health minister attempt to de-insure things like eye examinations and contraceptive counseling.
That's right.
And I would remind this Premier that it was because of the Canada Health Act that they had to end extra billing, Mr. Speaker. That's the record of this province. Now, Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Why is it that we should believe him now, after their record, that we believe them now that they stand for the principles of Medicare? Was the Canada Health Act that forced them in the first place, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, it's hard to believe the honourable member would be taking a position today that the government is against health care when you look at the tremendous health care system which this government has built in this province. I mean, it's the best in Canada. Now, it may be that the Minister of Health, who's absent today, may follow up in a letter or in some additional way to the honourable member if he has further questions. But we have a magnificent health care system. Only blind people blind to the future, though, would say that we must continue to have a health care system increasing in costs and dollars as wildly as it has across Canada. It's all of us who have a responsibility to maintain the best health care system, but to make it as efficient as possible so that future taxpayers are able to keep this kind of a health care system for the future.
Second main question.
There's a two-tiered system coming. We heard it, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
But I'd like to designate my second question, the member from Edmonton, Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At least two sources have said that the government will be making an announcement next week on the Alberta Pacific project. Number one, sources paving the way for a confrontation of historic proportions in the province of Alberta between the proponents of cowboy capitalism, the spill first and ask questions later, and people who want to do things a different way. Alpac is a low-yield technology. Only half the wood that goes into it comes out as pulp. It's a poor producer of jobs. In fact, I say it will cost a lot of Aboriginal people their jobs. And worse, it's old technology. It doesn't meet the zero effluent standard of mills which are under construction in our neighboring provinces. So I'd like to ask the Minister of the Environment why the government is even considering this lemon at this time.
Where did you get this information? Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's the responsibility, in fact, the duty of this government to consider any and every project that comes to us that is deemed to contribute to the economic viability in this province, but at the same time that is deemed to perhaps cause some environmental problems, and that's what it's all about. That's why we're waiting to make an announcement, because we have a project that is deemed to be a viable project, but we do want to determine the environmental stability and worthiness of this particular project, and that's precisely the exercise that we're going through right now. And when all this information is brought together, and I've said this before, there will be an announcement one way or the other. And all I can say to the honourable member is what I've said to him before. Stay tuned.
Well, after the by-election. Mr. Speaker, the minister says that they're considering the project because the proponents asked them. Well, this is a government that dances to the tune of the construction barons who can make money on building a project like that, and the pulp industry that can make big bucks. But I'd like the minister to say why he doesn't push for a more environmentally sound type of development for that area, which will produce more value added to the timber instead of this lemon.
Well, you know, I'm really quite surprised that the honourable member would question our standards. Even the standard, Mr. Speaker, that applies to the mill in the constituency of West Yellowhead, which is represented by the NDP. And I'm still waiting for this member to go to West Yellowhead and tell the people there, I want this mill to be closed down. He won't do it, Mr. Speaker. He won't do it, Mr. Speaker. He's very, very selective in the mills that he wants to address in this particular province. Now, Mr. Speaker, it's very, very interesting to note that the Environment Minister in British Columbia, the Environment Minister in British Columbia had a dispute over levels of chlorinated organic. The Premier in that province said 2.5 was quite fine, and the minister in that province said, no, we want to go down to 1.5 by the year 1994. 1.5 is deemed to be the best achievable relative to bleachcraft mills in the world today. Well, Mr. Speaker, just for the information of the honourable member, in case he has forgotten, is that we have been achieving 1.5 and below for over a year now.
The last time we tried to get him up to West Yellowhead, he chickened out, the bum. You want to talk about standards? Let's talk about zero, because that's what the impact of this minister has been, is zero. Zero effluent is the standard.
Order, please.
I'd like to ask the minister this. He's the one who came in his legislature talking about the end of confrontation. He wants us all to get along together and be nice to the minister, right? Well, I want to know if he's going to apologize in light of the looming confrontation over this project for having wasted the time of the prosperity farmers and their trust, and wasted the time of everybody who's tried to warn the government about this lemon project. Why didn't he apologize to them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not about to apologize to anyone, because this government is doing what is absolutely appropriate and right. We're giving this project the fullest of consideration. I can't think of a pulp mill project anywhere in this world that has been submitted to such an extensive public review. 2 public reviews, Mr. Speaker. Probably the most comprehensive of public reviews relative to any pulp mill anywhere in the world. And once that information is properly assessed, once it all comes together, once all departments and other jurisdictions have had their input, there will be a report to this government. This government will make a decision, will make a sound decision based on sustainable development, and that decision will be announced. And I ask the honourable member once again, stay tuned.
Order, please. The chair would ask the honourable member for Edmund Jasper Place if he would reconsider his characterization of the minister in the way he did earlier.
Was that? I'm sorry that I made an improper reference to the minister.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. My questions are to the newest chief of the Whitefish Band. And party congratulates the Premier on the receipt of that chief's position. Mr. Speaker, during the last election, the chief of the Whitefish Band said during the election that there would be no new taxes. We know, though, that there were other taxes. And December the 3rd, the chief of the Whitefish Band again said that there would be no new personal taxes. But we've been saying, the Liberal Party has been saying, that the government has been loading up taxes, indirect taxes on Albertans in other areas. Now, my first question to the Premier is this: will the Premier admit that he's simply playing a shell game when he says that there will be no new taxes on Albertans, and he knows full well that other taxes, indirect taxes, have been a very heavy burden on Albertans?
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously the Honourable Leader is trying to anticipate a budget and considerations that are currently before the Government Treasury Board. But I want to make it very clear to all Albertans that what I said was that there would not be an increase in personal income tax, and there will not be. We have the lowest taxes in Canada. We have no sales tax, and we're going to keep it that way, and that's what we're telling the people of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to draw the attention of the Honourable Premier to the most recent statistics that come from the Alberta Treasury Bureau of Statistics. From 1986 to 1989, they show a 160% increase in net indirect taxes paid by Albertans. 160%. Those are the taxes that are being paid by small Albertans, and admit it, you are playing a shell game, Mr. Premier.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable member may wish to get into details with the provincial treasurer regarding such things as federal excise taxes that are shown in the document he's waving about. But again, the thing that I'm determined to do, and I'm going to make sure happens, is that the people of Alberta do not get an increase in personal income tax, and they're going to stay with the lowest personal taxes in Canada and no sales tax.
Mr. Premier, these are your government's statistics. These are statistics that say that Albertans are paying indirect taxes, net indirect taxes of 160% from 86 to 89. That's where the slack is being picked up. Won't you admit that that's what's happening, Mr. Premier? Admit that you're trying to fool Albertans.
Well, I wouldn't do that, Mr. Speaker, and the Honourable Member knows that. What he is waving about there is a document that includes federal government increases, that type of thing that have been done over a period of time. And we know that that has happened in Canada. But the important thing is the tax burden that Albertans carry. The personal income tax that Albertans carry are the lowest in Canada, and they're going to stay that way. Now, what does that mean? It means when you have the best economy in Canada, and you have the lowest taxes in Canada, then you have the people who have the dollars, and they're making this the best place to live in Canada.
Right. Retail sales.
Now, a member for Leicester-Slave Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture. Many northern Albertan farmers are extremely concerned about replacing the Crow benefit with the freedom to choose. One of these concerns is that the northern farmers will have to pay greater amounts of money due to the fact that they are farther away from the ports. Given this situation, would the Minister please indicate what considerations are provided for northern farmers?
Mr. Speaker, the Freedom to Choose proposal, which would redirect the Crow benefit into the producer's pockets, has a number of factors in it to try to distribute that money as fairly and equitably as possible. Once the average per acre amount is determined, then there is an adjustment factor based upon the productivity of the land, and a second adjustment factor based upon distance from port. For those communities that are far from port and far from major rail lines, that distance adjustment factor increases to compensate for the conditions they're facing.
You had your chance. Mr. Speaker, will changing this method of payment ultimately lead to changes in the makeup of agriculture in northern Alberta?
Give it to him.
The studies that were conducted, and I would add that these studies were conducted in conjunction with the Alberta Wheat Pool, and they were done by outside consultants, and an assessment was made of what would have happened over the past 10 years had the new method of payment been in place. That study would show that the net farm income in northern Alberta from grain would actually go up. That's after you net out transportation costs. It would also indicate some growth in the livestock sector in that region of the province. I think it would be fair to say in passing that a plant like our canola processing plant in Sexsmith would have a far better chance of hitting a bottom black line if we removed the artificial distortion that exists today in domestically used grain because of the crow benefit flowing to the railway. I think the second thing that the next thing you would see occur is that there would be more interest from entrepreneurs in putting value-added plants into that area of the province, and hence there would be then more options for farmers to sell their product as opposed to shipping it directly to port.
Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Alberta Oil Sands and Technology Research Authority recently put out a publication entitled A 15-Year Portfolio of Achievement. This book is filled with lots of glossy pictures, Mr. Speaker, of premiers and energy ministers, past and present.
Lovely.
12,000 of them, in fact, Mr. Speaker, 12,000 copies of this book were given away to Canada's members of Parliament, its senators, a number of school libraries, and it cost, Mr. Speaker, $20 a copy. So I'd like to ask the Energy Minister if he could tell us why it is that this government can lavish spending $250,000 of taxpayers' money on an unnecessary publication like this. Wouldn't he admit that it would be better spent on promoting energy conservation than promoting conservative politicians?
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Oil Sands Technology and Research Authority has done tremendous work over the last decade. Contained in that document is a historical background on all of the projects that have come forward to AOSTRA, and has cataloged all of the tremendous breakthroughs that we've had in this province and our support for oil sands research. Mr. Speaker, this province produces 1.3 million barrels a day of oil. 250,000 barrels a day comes from synthetic crude oil, and it is making up a very important component of our oil supply today. AOSTRA has played a very significant role in the development of oil sands and the incremental supply of synthetic crude oil to our declining conventional supply.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to spend $250,000 to tell our senators about it is highly questionable. Obviously he has his department's priorities mixed up, Mr. Speaker, and this government has its priorities mixed up as well. I mean, shelters for battered women are underfunded, our hospitals are overcrowded, health units are closing, students are being turned away from our post-secondary institutions. So I'd like to ask the Premier, why it is that his government says yes
to publications like this and says no to the needs of Alberta's students, battered women, Alberta's kids, and senior citizens.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, this Alberta government says yes to assistance to battered women, yes to senior citizens, yes to students with the best programs in Canada. That's what this government says.
Right. That's the policy, Bob.
The AOSTRA document is not unlike documents that the Medical Heritage Foundation Research Group puts out. Albertans are very proud of it, but they need to know about it. There has been a history of tremendous breakthroughs in research in advanced technology, in medical research, in oil sands research. As the minister just pointed out, we have almost a quarter of our total oil production coming from the oil sands. There is more oil there in place than anywhere in the world, including all of the Middle East. The important job that AOSTRA has is to unlock the ability to produce those barrels. And then, Mr. Speaker, we know that for all time in the future, Albertans, because of AOSTRA, will have a supply of oil that can't be matched by anywhere in the world. Now that's a story that the world should know about, and that's what we're doing.
Good story.
Member for West Loch Sturgeon. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Agricultural Minister on the question of supply management. On November the 22nd, Mr. Speaker, the federal government presented a brief to a dairy task force saying, I quote, "A consumer body should set farmers' milk prices, replacing the current system of negotiations between government and milk marketing boards." End of quote. Later, the federal agricultural minister, Mazinkowski, is quoted as saying that he wants the government to get out of setting milk prices and be replaced by the consumers. A question to the minister, Mr. Speaker, is, does the minister agree with his federal counterpart that consumers should control the price of milk?
Mr. Speaker, the price of fluid milk in the province of Alberta, fluid table milk, is currently established by the Public Utilities Board, which certainly takes into consideration the consumer's position. I see no need at this point in time to change that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in view of the minister's past comments about supply management on his way out, does he agree with the federal government's support or opinion on supply management, that it can be retained provided it is responsive to the export or the prices, I should say, of importing products? In other words, it cannot set its own price. It has to be controlled by the import prices of competing products.
I would share the federal minister's view that supply management must become more market responsive. I have never taken the position, and neither has this government, that supply management should be eliminated in totality. I think there are sectors of supply management that could be adjusted and could become more market responsive. Those discussions are ongoing with the various supply management boards, and hopefully as time goes on, changes will unfold.
The honourable member for Calgary-Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this week I had the opportunity to celebrate Hanukkah with the member for Calgary-Buffalo and met with a number of people in the Jewish community who expressed their concern and anxiety regarding the Supreme Court decision and the rights of minority groups in Canada to be free from persistent racist and hateful attacks. And by its decision yesterday, the conviction of James Keekstra was upheld, and the Jewish community applauds this decision. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, how does the court decision ruling affect this government and his department and his efforts in what they are doing?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the...
Tell us about the Reform Party, Doug.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court has said in effect that you can't use the fundamental freedoms that are available in this country to attack other people or their individuals or religious groups or minorities, and that you can't launch vicious, false attacks on people in that manner. And I guess for Albertans who have found themselves the victims of those kinds of attacks, the ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday, I would expect, would be some considerable comfort. More to the point that those people who tend to launch these kind of attacks, one would hope, that this Supreme Court ruling would act as a bit of a deterrent. We'll begin to see a decline because, Mr. Speaker, it has been a difficult time over the past period without a substantial law in place that was reaffirmed to keep the tone of some of these comments down. So, Mr. Speaker, myself as the minister responsible for the Multiculturalism Commission, and I'm sure the chairman, applaud this ruling. It'll make our efforts a great deal easier.
Mr. Speaker, I have press releases from the B'nai B'rith of Canada, the Canadian Jewish Congress, and the Calgary Jewish community outlining their response to this decision, and yet the decision will not by itself end racism and discrimination in our society. Can the minister respond to these comments, and what will the government do in response to this? And people are saying that the government should do more. And I would like a response from the minister in regards to this.
Mr. Speaker, the comments have often been made that this is the responsibility of government. Why don't you do something? Why don't you prosecute? Why don't you launch a campaign? Why don't you launch a program? Why don't you stop these people? Why can't you make them stop? Mr. Speaker, it's not possible. Mr. Speaker, it's not possible to legislate against people's feelings. You can't force people to like one another, but you can attempt to create an atmosphere in which people respond to each other. I quote from the remarks of the Calgary Jewish Community Council, Mr. Speaker, I think it's good advice. They say that this ruling, and I'm quoting now, should not be viewed as an invitation to seek legal recourse for each and every negative comment or incident of discrimination. The burden is upon us as Canadians and members of this society to deal with racism and discrimination within our midst on a social level. Mr. Speaker, that's a statement with which I agree. It's one with which the government concurs. And with that kind of an attitude, the government will be able to play a role, a continuing role, in providing leadership in this area, and not only leading our nation, but perhaps the world in fostering an atmosphere in which diversity is not only appreciated and encouraged, but is in fact celebrated.
I'm a member for Edmonton-Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have thousands of children in Alberta who are living in poverty, and as Christmas draws near, we are reminded just how difficult life is for these children. The recent meager increases in the rates which this government gave to social allowance recipients do not begin to address the serious problems that children have growing up in poverty and who clearly do not have the opportunities that other children have. In fact, the government's only response to the needs of these children in the social reform package was to cut their recreational allowance in half. My questions are to the Premier because I believe he is ultimately responsible for these families and their children. In view of the fact that recreation is part of a child's healthy development, how does the Premier justify to these families that $9 a month is enough to cover their children's recreational needs?
Mr. Speaker, the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services deals with this matter and would reply for the honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, the reforms that have been introduced in this last round of discussions cover a great variety of services to these families. It is true that recreation is one of the main considerations in a healthy family, but it is not the only consideration, and we are addressing all of the concerns, we believe, most adequately.
People receiving social assistance and aid have waited for an increase which in no way was adequate enough, and they waited for years for the increase. So in view of the fact that the increase to the food allowance still does not cover the price of infant formula, and thousands of children are still being fed by the 30 food banks throughout this province, Will the Associate Minister at least, at the very minimum, commit today to an annual cost of living increase to the rates of social assistance and to the ACE program?
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to be able to respond to the member for Edmonton-Calder and welcome the opportunity of being able to talk about some very progressive welfare reforms that have been introduced in this province as of late. I'd again point out to the member, Mr. Speaker, that these changes were the effort not only of this government, but the effort of a great deal of Albertans who participated in the process and helped us with some good, sound advice and direction and leadership as it relates to these changes. Mr. Speaker, I understand the recreation allowance was brought up, and I'd want to say what a progressive change that was. The member should know, the member perhaps wouldn't know that up until this point it was only about 25% of the caseload that were able to access the recreation allowance. What we've done, Mr. Speaker, is we've taken that recreation allowance and we've made it a ongoing benefit for all those that are entitled. Not something that they have to apply for, not something that they have to appeal for, but something that they're going to receive month after month after month. Mr. Speaker, again, I can only say that these reforms have been well thought through, they're well supported by Albertans, and we look forward to an exciting 1991 as we progress with these changes and as we see Albertans and clients respond in a very positive way.
The honourable member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in defending the construction of Bleachcraft pulp mills and their organochlorine effluent pollution, this government argues that Bleachcraft pulp creates a particularly high-quality paper for which there is no substitute and for which there is a very special market demand. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, Louisiana Pacific Limited, the zero-effluent pulp company at Chetwynd, BC, claims that in fact its product is exactly interchangeable with Bleachcraft pulp paper. Moreover, in 1989, Dayashawa, while building a $500 million bleached craft pulp plant here in Alberta, and get this, Mr. Speaker, Dayashawa at that time was proposing a non-bleached craft mill for Coos Bay, Oregon. Funnily enough, Dayashawa doesn't have that concern with that special market demand. Has the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife had the presence of mind to confirm the claims of Louisiana Pacific about its product being interchangeable with the Dayashawa product, or is he going to proceed with ALPAC without having done that very basic research?
Mr. Speaker, the research in the pulp markets around the world would indicate that there is markets for both. There's lots of claims being made on both sides. We've looked at it very closely ourselves. The honourable member that's asking the question maybe should do a little more research instead of believing everything he reads in the newspapers.
That's no answer. Well, if there's demand for both, why does BC meet the demand that doesn't pollute and we meet the demand that does pollute? Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, could the Minister tell us why it is that Dayashawa would be allowed to build a Bleachcraft pulp mill here in Alberta at exactly the same time that it is proposing a non-Bleachcraft pulp mill for Coos Bay, Oregon?
Mr. Speaker, to give the honourable member a little lesson in the real world. The real world is that there's different kinds of trees, there is different kinds of wood, there are different kinds of paper. We have also announced recently CTMP mills in Alberta at the same time as Bleachcraft mills. They're a different resource, a different utilization to meet a different end use, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Highwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good news comes from the Department of Tourism that indicates some of the best snow conditions in the Eastern Rockies in record. Sunshine has indicated that the snow conditions are just superb. So we have some of the heaviest snowfalls in the Eastern Rockies for many, many years. My question then is to the Minister of the Environment. In the light of last year's so-called 1 in 10-year floods, there is a strong possibility of a 1 in 25 or perhaps even a 1 in 100-year flood in rivers such as the Highwood River and the Sheep River. Can the Minister assure the people of Alberta and the people of Highwood that proper monitoring of this snowfall will be carried out throughout this winter and spring?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Environment has had in place for some time a river forecast center. Essentially, this center monitors consistently the snowpacks in the mountain and in the mountains, and makes estimations of runoff throughout the spring, and virtually is in a position to advise people on a moment's notice of any flood danger. And as a matter of fact, this is something that has been ongoing for some time, and we're able with this monitoring equipment to advise people very early that floods might occur, and to take appropriate measures in conjunction with public works, supplies, safety, and services. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary is again to the Minister of the Environment, with perhaps the Minister responsible for disaster assistance adding supplementary information. What protective measures then has your department worked on and prepared for a possible 1 in 25-year flood for the coming spring?
Throughout the province, there are numerous programs that relate to flood control. There are various channelization programs. There are various diversion programs. There's one indeed on the Highwood River that is the subject now of an environmental impact assessment with respect to the widening and the upgrading of that diversion. There are numerous dams throughout the province, and all of these actions are designed to control floods and to minimize the damage that could come about as a result of heavy snowpacks, rain, and other factors that contribute to flooding.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Speaker, on November the 29th in this Assembly, the Attorney General denied that there were serious delays in the court system of the province. In fact, he defied me to show something different. Well, he has his own government's report that shows that the volume of court cases in this province has increased by 50% overall in the past 4 years, and by nearly 100% in youth court. Also, I have with me a stack of other documents that would support my charge. Currently, Mr. Speaker, most Crown prosecutors, defense lawyers, and judges in the city of Calgary also disagree with the minister. My question, Mr. Speaker, is that given that in Calgary these year-long waits are resulting in numerous applications to have charges dismissed on grounds of unreasonable delay, will the Attorney General now concede that there is a serious problem and tell this Assembly what he intends to do about it?
Mr. Speaker, I'd be pleased to receive the documents the honourable member is waving about and ask that he perhaps table them. I, in my comments before, Mr. Speaker, said that we have some stress points in our justice system. We do not have a serious crisis in this justice system. Our court delays are the envy of every other jurisdiction. We have a 10-week, sure, there are instances, Mr. Speaker, and probably one that the honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn could bring forward, where defense counsel can't meet at an appropriate time, and you jockey back and forth and you have something delayed for a year. That's not the fault of the system, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted with the statistics the honourable member is putting forward. Once he's tabled them, perhaps they'll help me with my Treasury Board representations as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, these delays are causing a lot of suffering for a lot of people in the province. How does the minister justify the fact that in Calgary, because of the delay caused by this jam in the courts, that a Calgary mother whose children were seized by welfare authorities in October and whose children are suffering from not being with their mother can't even get before a judge until next September?
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member would like to again table the details of that specific case, I'd be delighted to look at the details from our side and give him an answer. The justice system, as I mentioned, has some stress points which we are addressing. We have a resourcing study underway. We're getting parts of that together. I have representations before the Treasury Board to do some of this. But I think, Mr. Speaker, anyone that wants to grandstand, be it an MLA, be it a lawyer, be it a judge or anything, to try and paint a crisis is not doing this system any justice. By working together, we can have and continue to have the best justice system in Alberta.
The honourable member, Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we all know the very difficult situation that agriculture is in all of Canada. In Alberta, many farmers have diversified, and of course we have many support and insurance-type programs. However, one very important, albeit small, sector has been omitted from the tripartite red meat stabilization program. To the Minister of Agriculture, why is it that this sector has been omitted?
Mr. Speaker, what the honourable member is referring to is the feedlot component of the sheep industry. The sheep industry across Canada currently enjoys one tripartite program. Our producers in Alberta, which are developing a different and I would say more advanced industry than the balance of Canada, have been lobbying for some time to get a tripartite component for the feeder of lambs. At this point in time, we've received no support from any other provinces, and hence it's been turned down at the federal provincial committee level.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if it wouldn't be possible for the province of Alberta to work with the federal government and even though the other province may not want to participate, to work out some type of program for these people.
That is a matter that is being explored. The other matter that is being explored is a proposal that the industry has in front of us to begin with 2 participants in the program as opposed to 3, which would mean the province of Alberta and the producers developing a program of their own that could eventually be fit into the tripartite system. Those possibilities are currently under consideration.
Now member for Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Social Services. Women's emergency shelters spend a lot of their time fundraising because the province funds only 80% of the cost of a person's basic needs while she is in the shelter, and the shelter has to raise the other 20% of the cost from their community. This underfunding clearly displays that sheltering women is not a government priority, because in contrast, the full cost of keeping people in prison is paid by the government. To the Minister of Family and Social Services, will the Minister now commit today to providing 100% core funding to women's shelters in this province?
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting to listen to the member opposite saying only 80%. I would say this, Mr. Speaker, that again, our funding has increased substantively in recent years. We've talked about that on many occasions in this Assembly. The formula that we have in place today, Mr. Speaker, is a formula based on a model that was established between the Department of Family and Social Services and the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. It's there to provide funding for their very basic needs. We're very fortunate that as a result of the commitment that individual women's shelters bring forward, some of them are able to provide services beyond the basic level that's required. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that it's unreasonable for communities to be able to respond along with the provincial government and along with other concerned Albertans. Again, our funding has increased substantively. We've clearly made it a high priority from a governmental perspective. We're not happy, Mr. Speaker, about the amount of family violence and family abuse in society today. But we're doing everything that we can, and we know that there are an awful lot of caring Albertans out there that are prepared to share those responsibilities with us.
Mr. Speaker, the Council on Women's Shelters wants 100% for core funding. And communities want to give money for treatment, not essential services. Mr. Speaker, in Grand Prairie, a successful treatment program for men who batter their partners is continually having to shut down because this government refuses to commit funds to operate it. We all know that violence will not stop unless the batterer is treated, yet no government department will take responsibility for funding this important preventative program. My question is to the Premier. Will the Premier today prove his commitment to healthy family life in this province by assigning the responsibility for treating men who batter to one government department and directing that that department fund the programs consistently and on an ongoing basis?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Family and Social Services may well want to augment my reply, but he has just given the honourable member the government's position and the wonderful job and the terrific job that's being done in the area of support in this unfortunate matter in Alberta and in Canada and in the world. The Minister may well want to augment my answer.
Could there be unanimous consent to revert to the introduction of special guests? The Honourable Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure for me today on behalf of the Honourable Member for Sherwood Park to introduce to you students from the West Hosford Elementary School and teachers and parents. The teachers are Mrs. Marilyn Masick, Mr. Colin Sturdy, Mrs. Maggie Carr, and Mrs. Gwen Allison, and they're accompanied today by parents, Mrs. Carol Portaz, Mrs. Debbie Moore, Mr. Randy James, Mrs. Gwen Lyle, Mrs. Laura Andre, and Mrs. Flo Zawalek, and Bev Clark along with them as well. Mr. Speaker, they're in both galleries, I believe, if they're still here, and I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In the constituency of Barhead, there is one community school, Muir Lake Community School. The school is located in a geographic position in the constituency, Mr. Speaker, where the children who attend the school come from 3 different constituencies. So on behalf of my colleague, the MLA for Stony Plain, and my colleague, the MLA for Westlock Sturgeon, I would like to welcome to this assembly 34 young people from Muir Lake Community School. They're in the public gallery, Mr. Speaker, and they are accompanied by 3 teachers, Mrs. McCormick, Mrs. Bernardin, and Mr. Sleeman. I would ask our guests to rise, Mr. Speaker, and receive the warm welcome of all members of the Assembly.
The Honourable the Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have had 2 groups with us this morning. Some of them are come and gone, but for the record, it's a pleasure to introduce a group of students from the Duke Christian Academy located in my constituency. There's 16 students from grade 7 to grade 9, and they were seated, I believe, in the members gallery. If they're still there, I'd ask them to rise.
The Honourable Member for Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce 44 students from the Broxton Park School in the city of Spruce Grove, which is in the constituency of Stony Plain. They're here from, accompanied by their teachers Diane McLean, Tony Esposito, and Elaine Henry. I'd ask them to all rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The honourable member for Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order coming out of question period. During question period, the Minister of the Environment stated that every pulp mill in Alberta was meeting a standard of 1.5 kilograms per air-dried ton of organic chloride material. Now, the Minister is probably aware, or should be, that Procter & Gamble has to meet no standard for, I'm under 495 Beauchesne, look it up.
Order, please. The chair missed it. Order, please. Order. The chair missed the honourable member's reference to Beauchesne.
495. That Procter & Gamble meets no standard for AOX until the end of this year, and even then, it's 3 kilograms per air-dried ton on a monthly basis and 6 kilograms per day. I would like to table an excerpt from the...
Order, please. Order. Order. It's beginning to look like it. But the honourable member cites 495, which is document cited. I don't recall the honourable member for the honourable Minister of the Environment citing a document in his reference to the...
Mr. Speaker, I have the document here which I would like to table. Also, there are documents involved. I'm having difficulty being heard, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The chair does not believe that the honourable member has substantiated a point. Order, please. The chair still does not believe that the honourable member, if the honourable member can come quickly to his point of order instead of making a speech, the chair will entertain it. Otherwise, the chair will not entertain this point of order.
I appreciate the chair has trouble hearing. I'll try to speak as loudly as I can. The document that was taken...
Order, please. Order, please. Order, please. The honourable member has lost his chance to pursue this point of order because he refuses to come directly to the point of order. Orders of the day. Orders of the day. Order, please. Order, please. Order, please. The chair gave the honourable member the chance to come to his point of order quickly. He did not choose to accept that invitation. Therefore, this point of order is closed. There is no point of order. Orders of the day. The honourable Leader of the Opposition, citation.